Family helps family, right? My father insisted when I discovered they'd secretly sold my car. I reported it as stolen. The next day, I packed my stuff. I'm 23. I always thought blood meant something. That family would have your back when no one else would. That's what my parents drilled into me since I was old enough to understand words. But that was before they sold my car. My phone buzzed at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday. I was 3 weeks into my internship in Chicago, 1,000 miles from home. The screen showed my neighbor's name. She never called. Never. My heart lurched as I answered. The neighbor's voice came through, tight with concern. She'd seen someone drive away my car yesterday. She thought I should know. My throat went dry. My 2015 Honda Civic, the one I'd saved for since I was 16. The one I'd bought with my own money after 3 summers of mowing lawns and 2 years working nights at the grocery store. The car I'd left safely parked in my parents' driveway because they promised to keep an eye on it. I asked if she was certain it was mine. The blue one with the dent in the back bumper. Yes, she was sure. I called my parents immediately. No answer. I texted. Nothing. The knot in my stomach tightened. 3 hours later, my dad finally called back. His voice casual, too casual, as if he didn't know why I was calling. As if he hadn't been avoiding me. I told him about our neighbor's call, about my missing car. A pause, too long. My father cleared his throat. He said they were going to tell me this weekend. Andy needed some help. Andy, my brother, the family favorite, always in debt, always with a new scheme, always being bailaid out by my parents while I worked for everything I had. What does Andy have to do with my car? He was in a tight spot, owed some money to some people, bad people, Nick. We had to help him out. My chest tightened. I already knew where this was going. So you gave him my car? Not exactly. Well, we sold it to help him cover what he owed. I couldn't believe they'd sold my car without asking me. Dad's voice hardened. It was an emergency, Nick. These people were threatening him. What were we supposed to do? Not sell something that wasn't theirs to sell, I thought. The words came out harsher than I'd intended. Dad's tone changed immediately. Don't raise your voice at me, young man. Family looks out for family. Andy would do the same for you. He's your brother. I laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. No, Andy wouldn't, and it wasn't their decision to make. Dad promised they'd make it up to me once things settled down. I asked how much they'd gotten for it. Another pause, 4,000. Less than half what it was worth. My hands trembled with rage. I asked who bought it and where the money was. Dad admitted they'd given it to Andy to pay off his debt. Of course they had. My car was gone and I didn't even have the money from its sale. Just the knowledge that my cousin's problems were temporarily solved until his next crisis. I told Dad I was coming home that weekend. We were going to fix this. I hung up before he could respond. The next 3 days crawled by. I couldn't focus on work, couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my car driving away without me, my freedom vanishing in a cloud of exhaust. I kept checking my bank account, as if the numbers might magically increase, as if my parents might have deposited the money they owed me. Nothing changed. The balance remained painfully inadequate to replace what I'd lost. My supervisor noticed my distraction, asked if everything was okay. I mumbled something about family issues and promised to catch up on my work over the weekend. Another lie in a growing pile. I wouldn't be catching up on anything except the betrayal waiting for me back home. Friday night, I took a bus home, 10 hours of seething rage and betrayal. By the time I walked through my parents' front door, I was a hurricane in human form. My mother rushed to hug me. I stepped back, asked where Dad was. Mom's face fell. She knew I was upset, she said. I replied that upset didn't begin to cover it. Dad sat at the kitchen table, coffee mug in hand. He looked smaller somehow. Less like the man who taught me to throw a baseball and more like someone I didn't recognize. He started to speak, but I cut him off, asked for Andy's address. Dad suggested we talk first. I repeated my demand, his address. Now, Dad sighed, wrote it on a napkin, and slid it across the table. I turned to leave. Mom called after me. Andy wasn't there. He'd left town right after everything happened. Of course he had, typical Andy, take the money and run. I asked who they'd sold my car to. They exchanged glances. A dealership in Riverdale, Boyd's Auto Sales. I knew the place, everyone did. Jimmy Boyd was notorious for shady deals and overpriced lemons. My car deserved better. Nick, wait, my mother pleaded. We were desperate. Andy was in real trouble. So am I shot back. I'm in real trouble right now. The difference is I didn't create my problem. You did. The drive to Riverdale took 40 minutes. Each mile fueled my determination. This wasn't just about a car anymore. It was about respect, about boundaries, about standing up for myself when my own family wouldn't. I spotted my car immediately. Front row, freshly washed, with a price tag of $9,500 on the windshield, more than double what my parents had sold it for. My blood boiled. The office door jingled as I walked in. Jimmy Boyd looked up from his desk, all fake smiles and slick-back hair. What can I do for you today, young man? Looking for your first car? I'm looking for my car, the blue Honda Civic out front, the one you bought from my parents without my permission. His smile faltered for just a second before returning, wider and faker than before. That vehicle was purchased legally. I have the paperwork right here. He patted a folder on his desk. My name's on the title, I said. Not my parents. That stopped him, his eyes narrowed. That's not what they told me. I bet it isn't. I pulled out my phone, showed him a photo of the title with my name clearly visible. I'd taken the picture when I first bought the car, proud of my accomplishment. Now it was evidence. Boyd's expression darkened. Look, kid, I paid cash for that car, fair and square. What happened between you and your parents isn't my problem. Actually, it is. You bought stolen property. I bought it from your parents. Without the owner's consent, that's theft by conversion. Thank God for that business law class last semester. Boyd's face darkened. He stood up, using his height to tower over me. He told me to get out of his office before he called the police. I smiled, a cold, hard smile that felt foreign on my face. I encouraged him to do just that, save me the trouble. The police would love to hear about how he was selling a car with an improper title transfer. We stared at each other, neither willing to back down. Finally, he broke. He asked what I wanted. My car back, I said. He laughed. An ugly sound. Not happening, he said. Best he could do was sell it to me. 10 grand. I pointed out he just put $9,500 on the windshield. Price went up. He smirked. I felt something shift inside me. A lifetime of being the reasonable one, the responsible one, the one who fixed things rather than broke them. It all fell away. Keep the car, I said quietly. But know this, I'm filing a police report for theft. I'm contacting the DMV about fraudulent title transfer. I'm calling the Better Business Bureau. And I'm going to stand outside your lot every weekend with a sign telling everyone how you knowingly bought a stolen car. His face paled slightly. I wouldn't, he said. Try me, I replied. I walked out, phone already in hand, dialing the local police department. 2 hours later, I stood in the police station filing a report. The officer looked skeptical at first, but the title was in my name. The evidence was clear. He promised they'd look into it. Meanwhile, I shouldn't approach Boyd again. I nodded, though I had no intention of backing down. My phone had been buzzing nonstop. My parents, calling, texting, pleading for me to come home so we could work this out as a family. I ignored them all. That night I stayed at a motel. Couldn't bear the thought of sleeping under their roof, not after what they'd done. I thought about all the times I'd buylaid Andy out. The money I'd loaned him over the years, knowing I'd never see it again. The excuses I'd made for him to teachers, to coaches, to girls he'd stood up. The way I'd always been expected to look out for my older brother, even though he was supposed to be the one setting an example. The messes I'd helped clean up because that's what family did. But this was different. This wasn't me choosing to help. This was them taking from me without asking, without permission, without respect. Morning came with a call from the police officer. He informed me they'd spoken with Boyd. He'd agreed to return the vehicle to me. My heart leapt. When I asked today at noon, at the station, they'd supervised the exchange. Relief washed over me. Then suspicion. I asked if there was a catch. No catch, the officer assured me, though Boyd did say to tell me he wouldn't forget this. A threat thinly veiled, but I didn't care. I was getting my car back. At 11:30, my phone rang again, my mother. Nikki, please, your father and I are so sorry. We never meant to hurt you. But you did. We were trying to help Andy. You know how he gets when he's desperate. And what about me? Didn't I deserve your help too? Of course you do, but you're strong, Nick. You've always been the strong one, the responsible one. We knew you'd be okay. And there it was, the truth I'd always suspected but never wanted to face. To my family, my reliability was a weakness to be exploited, not a strength to be respected. I have to go, I said. Wait, your father talked to Andy. He's going to pay you back every penny. I almost laughed. No, he won't, and you know it. At noon, I stood in the police station watching Jimmy Boyd hand over my keys. His eyes burned with hatred, but he forced a smile for the officer's benefit. He suggested there were no hard feelings, just a misunderstanding. I didn't respond, just took my keys and walked out, my car, my freedom, back where it belonged, but something still felt wrong, incomplete. I drove to my parents' house one last time. They were waiting on the porch, faces anxious and hopeful, as if this could all be smoothed over with an apology and a family dinner. You got your car back, my mother rushed down the steps. Oh, Nick, we're so glad, so glad. My father approached more cautiously, reading my expression. Son, we know we messed up, we'll make it right. I looked at them both, really looked. Saw not the parents I'd idolized growing up, but two people who'd betrayed my trust in the most fundamental way. I was moving the rest of my stuff out today, I told them quietly. I wouldn't be coming back. Their faces fell in unison. Nick, no, my mother pleaded. We're family. Family doesn't steal from each other. We were trying to protect Andy. And who was protecting me? They had no answer for that. I packed my things quickly. Clothes, books, the few mementos I still wanted. It all fit in my car. My computer was next. The expensive gaming system I'd spent months saving for. The books I'd collected since high school. The guitar I'd taught myself to play. Each item a piece of me, a testament to my hard work, my determination. I wondered if they'd have sold these two if Andy had needed more money. Probably. As I loaded the last box, my phone buzzed with a text. Andy, hey bro, heard what happened. Sorry about the car thing. I'll pay you back soon, promise. Empty words from an empty person. I blocked his number without replying. My mother stood in the doorway, crying quietly as I got into my car. My father stood behind her, one hand on her shoulder, his face a mask of regret. For a moment, I hesitated. Years of conditioning, of being the fixer, the peacemaker, almost pulled me back into their orbit. But then I remembered my car, sitting in that sleazy lot with a price tag that mocked my hard work. I remembered the casual way they dismissed my feelings, my property, my boundaries. I started the engine. Nick, please, my mother called out. Don't do this, we can work it out. I looked at them one last time. No, we can't, not anymore. I drove away, watching them shrink in my rearview mirror until they disappeared completely. The weight on my chest didn't lift immediately. There was grief mixed with the anger, loss tangled with relief. But with each mile that passed, I felt something new growing in its place, something that felt strangely like freedom. My phone kept buzzing. I pulled over and blocked their numbers too. No more guilt trips, no more manipulation, no more being the family safety net. The road ahead was uncertain. I had an internship to finish, a final year of college to complete, a life to build on my own terms. But for the first time, I would be building it for myself, not as someone's backup plan, not as the responsible one who could be counted on to sacrifice when others wouldn't, just as Nick, driving his own car, following his own path. The dashboard clock read 7:15 p.m., the exact time 3 weeks ago when my parents had sold my car out from under me. Sometimes an ending is really a beginning. Sometimes losing something shows you what you never should have tolerated in the first place. I thought about the years ahead. Graduation, a job, a place of my own, all the normal milestones of adulthood, but with one crucial difference. I would be facing them alone. No family dinners, no holiday gatherings, no safety net if I failed. The thought should have terrified me. Instead, it felt like throwing open a window in a stuffy room, like taking the first deep breath after nearly drowning. My phone buzzed one more time, a voicemail notification. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won out. It was Andy, slurring his words slightly, probably drunk. Again, heard you got the car back, he said. That's cool, man, really cool. But listen, those guys I owed money to, they're still pretty pissed. I might need to borrow some cash, just for a little while. You know how it is. Family helps family, right? I deleted the message, blocked his new number too. Family helps family. That's what they'd always told me. What they'd used to justify every unreasonable demand, every one-sided sacrifice. But they'd never specified what helping looked like. Never clarified that it shouldn't leave you empty, shouldn't require you to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. The highway stretched before me, a ribbon of possibility in the gathering darkness. My headlights cut through the night, illuminating just enough road to move forward, 1 mile at a time, one decision at a time. The radio played softly in the background, some songs about breaking free, finding yourself, the kind of thing that usually made me roll my eyes. Now it felt like the soundtrack to my life. The truth about my family had definitely made me miserable, but freedom, that was starting to feel pretty good. By midnight, I'd crossed the state line. The road signs welcomed me to Illinois, to my new life. My phone had finally stopped buzzing. Either they'd given up or they'd run out of new numbers to call from. Either way, the silence was blissful. I checked into another motel just outside of Chicago. This one was slightly nicer than the last, a small celebration of my victory, of reclaiming what was mine and walking away from what wasn't serving me. The room was clean, the bed comfortable. For the first time in weeks, I slept deeply without dreams. Morning came with a sense of possibility I hadn't felt in years. I showered, dressed, and headed back to my internship apartment, back to the life I was building for myself. The city skyline appeared on the horizon, a jagged silhouette against the brightening sky. All those buildings, all those people, all those possibilities. I wondered if my parents had tried to call the company where I was interning, if they'd attempted to track me down that way. Probably. They weren't the type to let go easily, but it didn't matter. I was an adult. This was my life, my choice. My car hummed beneath me, a constant reminder of what I'd fought for, what I'd won back. I parked in the garage beneath my building and carried my belongings up to my small studio apartment. It wasn't much. A bed, a desk, a kitchenette barely big enough to turn around in. But it was mine. A space no one could invade without my permission. As I unpacked, I found a photo that had slipped between the pages of a book. Me at 16, washing my car for the first time, grinning with pride. My dad in the background, watching with what I'd always thought was approval. Now I wondered if it had been something else. Calculation, assessment of an asset that might someday be useful. I set the photo aside. Not everything needed to be figured out today. My supervisor called as I was putting away the last of my clothes, asked how the family emergency had worked out. Better than expected, I told him. I'd be back at work on Monday. The weekend stretched before me, 2 days to adjust to my new reality, to process what had happened and decide what came next. I spent Saturday exploring Chicago on foot, places I'd been meaning to visit but hadn't made time for. The Art Institute, Navy Pier, Millennium Park, tourist spots, yes, but I'd never given myself permission to be a tourist in my temporary home. Sunday, I did laundry, grocery shopped, cooked a real meal for the first time in weeks. Small, ordinary tasks that felt newly significant. This was what independence looked like, taking care of myself because I wanted to, not because someone else needed something from me. Monday morning, I drove to work. My car was no longer just transportation, but a symbol of boundaries held, of self-respect demanded, of freedom claimed. The truth was too complicated to explain. How do you tell someone that losing your family feels like finding yourself? That cutting ties can be a kind of connection to your own worth, your own values, your own strength. The weeks passed, then months. My internship ended, but they offered me a job for after graduation. I accepted. Chicago was growing on me, a city where no one knew me as anyone's son or cousin, where I could define myself on my own terms. Sometimes late at night, I'd wonder about them, if they missed me, if they regretted what they'd done, but those moments grew less frequent, less painful. And then one day, a letter arrived. No return address, but I recognized my mother's handwriting. I almost threw it away unopened. but curiosity won out again. Inside was a check for $4,000 and a note, "We were wrong, we're sorry. When you're ready, we're here." No manipulation, no guilt trip, just an acknowledgement and space. I folded the note and put it in my desk drawer, deposited the check. They owed me that much at least, but I didn't call, wasn't ready yet, might never be. And that was okay. The trust that had been broken couldn't be repaired with money or words. Only time would tell if it could be rebuilt at all. Meanwhile, I had a life to live, my life, on my terms. I turned up the radio and pressed down on the gas pedal. My car responded instantly, carrying me forward, away from what had been and toward what could be. To everyone who's ever been taken for granted by the people who should value them most, your worth isn't determined by how much you'll sacrifice for others. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say no. Set boundaries. Walk away.